That's what the system do, man. They set them boys in there, them boys been in there since what? Valentine's Day 2019, 2018 or something like that. Went to trial, you know what I'm saying, hung jury or whatever they had going on. Really, in reality, hung jury or whatever, they couldn't come up with the decision. Shorty them had some leeway.
YNW Borland just dropped details so wild. The whole hip-hop world froze in disbelief. After 6 long years of loyalty, silence, and acting like the case couldn't break him, he finally cracked under pressure and took a plea deal that could send his former best friend Melly away forever. What he exposed about that deadly night flipped the entire story upside down and has everyone questioning what really went down. This wasn't just some court update, this was a bomb dropped right in the middle of rap culture, a revelation that left YNW Melly's name shaking in ways nobody ever expected. Street politics are now clashing with courtroom reality, and the whole community is watching this drama unfold like a movie. September 9th, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day YNW Borland made one of the most controversial moves in modern rap history, a move powerful enough to rewrite an entire case. We're talking about a plea deal so explosive that even old heads from the street scene are whispering about it like it's forbidden knowledge. The streets are calling it betrayal. Lawyers are calling it tactical. And everyone else is staring in shock, wondering how fast keeping it real can flip into survival mode when decades are on the line. And trust me, Borland's decision hit Melly's camp like a tidal wave the defense never saw coming. Here's exactly what happened inside that Broward County courtroom, where everything changed in a matter of minutes. Cortland Henry Borland, his real name, walked in facing charges that could crush a man's entire future. We're talking to first-degree murder charges, 2 accessory after-theft act charges, witness tampering on a capital level, directing criminal gang activity, conspiracy, and unlawful use of a two-way communication device.
Take a plea, you saying we did it. Even though you're saying no contest, you snitching.
Even if he doesn't have to say, he doesn't have to testify, make a statement, that's still snitching.
In street language, that's what people call "you ain't never going home" numbers. Instead of gambling with his life in front of a jury, Borland switched his whole game plan and pleaded no contest to witness tampering, to accessory to a capital felony counts, and unlawful use of a two-way communication device. In exchange, prosecutors dropped the murder charges, the ones that would V-locked him down until the end of time.
So by the nature of the pleas that he's taken, accessory after the fact of murder, it helps the state. Oh, why the fuck would the state drop 5 life sentences to just be like, oh, we just want this guy to go home? Come on.
This move shocked everyone sitting in that courtroom. It was bold, desperate, and calculated all at once. His sentence? 10 years in prison, 6 years on probation. But when you look at the time he already spent behind bars since 2019, this deal suddenly looks like a golden ticket because he could be walking out as early as January 6th, 2032. That's less than 7 years from now. A whole different destiny compared to growing old behind concrete walls. And this is where things get real messy. Because while Borland might have saved his own future, the streets believe he just threw a grenade into Melly's. The culture is buzzing, fans are panicking, and even people who never cared about this case are now glued to every update. This ain't just a plea deal. This is a storm that could change everything for YNW Melly. It's part of the deal he just signed. Borland now has to deliver what the system calls a proffer. Basically a full breakdown of everything he knows about the case, every detail, every move, every moment that prosecutors think matters. His lawyers keep pushing the line that he isn't expected to turn against Melly. But anyone who truly understands how the courtroom game works can see straight through that smooth talk. People ain't buying it, not for a second.
Again, he's not really trying to put on evidence so much to show that he's innocent versus he's trying to put on evidence to create, reasonable doubt. Because he doesn't have to show that he's innocent. He just has to show that the case that the state has is not strong enough to carry the reasonable.
This is where the story gets serious, because that proffer is exactly why folks are calling this plea deal a direct hit to Melly's defense. It's the type of requirement that flips a whole case inside out and exposes the parts that were supposed to stay hidden. For over 6 years, the state has been building a narrative claiming that Melly and Borland plotted together to take out their own crew. Members Christopher YNW Juvie Thomas Jr. and Anthony YNW Sakazer Williams, a storyline that's already been fueling courtroom drama for years, according to the state's version of events. Melly allegedly pulled the trigger inside the Jeep while Borland was behind the wheel. And after everything went down, they supposedly teamed up to make the scene look like a random drive-by. They allegedly rode around with the bodies before hitting the hospital, trying to make the whole thing seem like something from outside the crew. That's the story prosecutors have been fighting to prove from day one. Now, with Borland's plea deal, which basically acknowledges he played a role after the fact, the prosecution suddenly has something they've been chasing for years. Confirmation that fits their whole theory like a missing puzzle piece. This was indeed the same story Borland told the hospital when he showed up with 2 bodies back in 2018, claiming it was all a drive-by. This new move flips his original narrative on its head, and it came at the most calculated moment possible. Borland didn't take this deal randomly. He accepted it exactly 1 day before jury selection was set to begin. That timing wasn't fear, it was strategy. This was a chess move made by someone who realized the walls were closing in, and he had to choose between a terrible outcome and a worse one. He made the decision that would protect his future, even if it meant unleashing fireworks in someone else's case. His lawyer keeps reminding everybody that a no-contest plea isn't the same as admitting guilt. But anyone who's been around the justice system knows the real meaning behind moves like this. When you're staring down the possibility of spending the rest of your life in a cell, technical definitions don't matter. What matters is survival, and survival always comes with a cost. The streets are already labeling this as a Ghana-style plea, referring to what happened in the YSL situation when Sergio Kitchens signed a similar deal that had the whole culture questioning loyalty, street codes, and reputations.
My whole thing is, if you did it, take the plea. If you didn't do it, trial.
It's the kind of deal that protects your body, but leaves your name damaged forever in the eyes of the community. To truly understand what this decision means, we need to step back and look at how this whole case spiraled into the chaos we're seeing now. The YNW crew didn't just pop up out of nowhere. They came straight out of Gifford, Florida. A place where everybody grows up fighting the same battles and chasing the same dream of escaping struggle through music. Gemel demons known as YNW Melly, along with Christopher YNW Juvie Thomas Jr., Anthony YNW Sakazer Williams, and Cortland YNW Bortland Henry were more than partners. They were childhood friends who built their rise from the dirt together.
A proffer is usually a session between the defendant and the U.S. attorneys or the district attorneys in this case. And what usually happens is that they call it, and this is the popular name for it, Queen for a Day. Usually a part of your plea deal, they want you, well, not all, like, well, plea is different, but in a proffer session, they're going to allow you to tell them everything.
These were young men who shared food, shared visions, and shared the pressure of trying to turn street stories into a real career. But everything changed on October 26, 2018, a night that began with studio energy and ended with tragedy. Prosecutors say what started as a normal grind session in Fort Lauderdale turned into a nightmare, leaving 2 crew members dead and launching a case so heavy it carries the possibility of death penalty level consequences. But here's the twist. Borland's plea deal doesn't just change his own path. It hits Melly's defense right where it hurts. From day one, Melly's lawyers have been pushing the stance that he had nothing to do with the murders and that the whole state theory was built on sand. One of their strategies was simple: keep all possibilities open and hint that someone else, maybe even Borland, could. They played a bigger role than the state claims. Now that door is slammed shut. Borland's acknowledgement that he acted as an accessory after the fact wipes away the option to redirect suspicion toward him. Prosecutors now have something they never had before: a person who was inside the car confirming the state's timeline in a way that boosts their whole theory. That's the kind of detail that can shift a jury before the trial even starts. And then came the explosion on the streets. The second the news broke online, the entire hip-hop world snapped into chaos, debates, accusations, threads longer than court transcripts, and non-stop arguments about what loyalty really looks like when your life is on the line. The energy was wild, unforgiving, and louder than anything we've seen from this case in years. Borland's name was everywhere within hours, trending across every platform. Being compared to every rapper who ever took a deal that the culture viewed sideways. People were throwing out phrases like "gonna plea," connecting his move to Sergio Kitchen's decision in the YSL case that had the streets arguing nonstop about codes, trust, and survival. By 2025, this became the new standard comparison, a symbol of loyalty versus freedom. But the reactions that carried the most weight came from the families who've been living with pain and waiting over 6 years for answers. Anthony Morton, speaking for the Thomas family, made it clear they supported the deal, said, "At the end of the day, Mr. Henry knows what happened. He was in the car, but he wasn't the shooter." For these families, any step toward clarity is a step toward healing. And after years of waiting, even a small move forward means everything. But while the families showed support, the streets had a whole different reaction, and it wasn't pretty. In hip-hop culture, once folks start whispering your name next to the word snitch, you're basically facing social death. Your reputation gets torched, your career collapses, and your physical safety can take a serious hit. That label sticks to you forever, shadowing every move you make. From who's willing to collaborate to whether you can even walk through your old block without side eyes.
And state, is that the complete term? That's it?
He's also going to be giving proffer, Your Honor,
Proffer.
at a later time.
Is that part of the negotiated resolution?
It is.
Part of the negotiated resolution, you got to give a proffer.
The drama got even hotter when people began breaking down every line of Borland's plea paperwork like it was a leaked album. And what caught everyone's attention was on just that he accepted a deal. It was that proffer requirement, one part of the agreement that changes the entire energy around the situation. That's the part that made the whole culture stop and say, hold up, what's really going on here? Because in street language, proffer is straight up a spill everything meeting, a sit down, where you lay out every detail you know to prosecutors and their team. You sit at that table and tell them everything, the kind of session people in the streets look at sideways no matter what explanation you try to give. And once your name gets tied to that kind of process, the debate shifts from law to loyalty real fast. The mental pressure of situations like this is intense, and people underestimate how destructive the system is built to be. It's designed to break your mind, to wear you down, until the idea of protecting others feels impossible compared to protecting yourself and your family. Borland had been sitting in county jail since 2019, 6 long years of missed birthdays, missed losses, missed growth, and missed life. 6 years of nothing but cold walls, loud nights, and time that never stops moving. But the streets didn't want to hear psychological explanations or sympathy pieces. They only cared about one explosive question. Did Borland cross the line? Or did he simply do what anyone else would be done under impossible circumstances? Every conversation, every comment thread, every podcast clip turned into the same argument. Is this man a snitch, or just someone who finally reached his breaking point? Comparisons to past cases came instantly and endlessly. People brought up Tekashi 6ix9ine, who openly cooperated and testified in federal court, turning his whole story into one of the most infamous moments in rap history. Others mentioned Goness YSL plea, a move many considered cooperation, even though he never spoke on the stand. Some even reached back to older rap cases, drawing a long line of moments where artists chose freedom over silence. All of that history made Borland's choice look like part of a bigger pattern, a new era where courtroom pressure is making artists fold in ways the culture never imagined. But what made this situation even more complicated was the way Borland's team tried to fight the narrative before it swallowed him whole. Reports said Borland tried to clear the air through a freestyle posted online, pushing back against the accusations and denying he took any deal that would hurt the people closest to him. In the track, he reportedly said, "What the asterisk 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 I looked like taking a deal that hurt my an asterisk asterisk as free me and Melly." Asterisk, that was his attempt to regain some control, to show the streets he didn't fold the way people were claiming. But the problem is simple. Once the internet decides how they see you, reversing that image is close to impossible. And in this culture, perception isn't just half the story, Perception is the story. The streets made up their mind immediately, and it didn't matter what the paperwork actually said or what the lawyers explained. Too many people watching this unfold. Borland didn't just choose survival. He chose survival over loyalty to someone who came up with him from day one. The impact of this case goes way beyond Melly, Borland, or even the YNW collective. It cuts deep into the culture itself. What we re-seeing is a pattern that is becoming more common in high-profile cases involving young Black artists coming out of tough neighborhoods, from RICO sweeps to gang allegations that hit entire crews at once. The system feels engineered to box people into corners where cooperation becomes the only move that keeps you alive, even if it breaks every street value you were raised on. As people dug deeper, the controversy exploded again. Fans, bloggers, and legal watchers started speculating about what Borland's proffer might really contain, and the theories were wild. Since the details weren't released to the public, folks close to the case began whispering that the proffer would likely offer a full breakdown of October 26, 2018. The night Christopher Thomas Jr. and Anthony Williams lost their lives. If that's true, it could destroy whatever plan Melly's defense had been slowly crafting for the past 6 years. And the timing couldn't be worse for Melly. His retrial has been postponed again and again, and is now scheduled for January 2027, giving prosecutors years to shape, sharpen, and weaponize anything they got from Borland's proffer. That kind of time in the hands of a determined state attorney is dangerous, because they can build a narrative so tight it leaves almost no room to breathe for the defense. But what hurts the most, and what makes this situation hit the culture so hard, is the personal betrayal wrapped inside the legal drama. These weren't just co-defendants thrown together by circumstance. These were real friends. Brothers in the grind. Part of the same circle, the same dream, the same come up from a place where opportunities are rare and loyalty is priceless. They weren't linked by paperwork. They were linked by history. The YNW crew wasn't just a brand, it was a bond. A brotherhood built inside the struggles of Gifford, Florida, where young black men fight every day to survive poverty, danger, and broken systems, while trying to build a life through music. These men shared everything: small victories, huge losses, late-night studio runs, dreams of fame, and the slow climb toward success. To see that foundation crumble under courtroom pressure is heartbreaking for the people who watch them grow together, and the culture is split down the middle. On one side, you've got the purists, the ones who say street code is sacred and never meant to be broken, no matter the cost. On the other side, you've got the realists, the ones who understand the system was built to crush young men like Melly and Borland, forcing them to make impossible decisions where survival starts competing with loyalty. This divide is loud, emotional, and ripping through the hip-hop community like wildfire. Which brings us to the raw question everyone is scared to say out loud. Is this the end of the road for Melly? Now that the shock is fading and people are finally looking at the legal consequences head-on, the truth is becoming harder to ignore. Borland's plea deal might have been the moment that sealed Melly's fate in the most devastating way imaginable. Because this isn't just about one man choosing himself, this is about how one move might reshape an entire case forever. What we re-witnessing now, isn't just a legal twist it, as a strategic hit that could completely reshape the direction of one of hip-hop's biggest murder cases. This move from Borland sends shockwaves way beyond the courtroom, reaching into rap culture, street politics, and the entire narrative surrounding the YNW crew. The legal consequences of Borland's plea deal are nothing short of catastrophic for Melly's defense. And lawyers across the country are calling it one of the toughest blows his legal team has taken so far. By pleading no contest to accessory after the fact charges, Borland basically put a stamp of legitimacy on the prosecution's entire storyline. Legal experts are saying this shift could destroy Melly's main defense strategies, because it hands the state exactly what they needed: confirmation from someone in the car that their theory was, just speculation. This isn't a minor setback for the defense. This is a complete turn in momentum that favors the prosecution heavily. Let's break down why this move hit so hard. Since day one, Melly's team has been arguing he had no involvement in the deaths of Christopher Thomas Jr. and Anthony Williams. They've been claiming the state's narrative that this was a planned murder disguised as a drive-by was built on weak evidence and shaky assumptions. One of their strongest options was to suggest that someone else, maybe even Borland, played a bigger role than investigators realized. But now that Borland accepted a deal, acknowledging he acted as an accessory after the fact, that entire angle has been destroyed. There's no way to redirect suspicion toward him anymore, so the prosecution can now stand in front of a jury and say, look, one of the men with Melly that night already admitted his role, and that's a game changer. It strengthens the idea that this was a coordinated act, followed by a calculated attempt to clean up the scene. And the most dangerous part for Melly? The proffer requirement? Even though Borland's attorney keeps repeating that the information can be used directly against Melly, people who actually understand how the system works know that doesn't tell the full story. Prosecutors don't need to use the proffer in court to weaponize it. They can use it behind the scenes in ways that are just as deadly. Whatever Borland told them can help build their investigation from the ground up. It can help them find new witnesses. It can help them locate new evidence. It can prepare them to tear apart Melly's testimony if he ever takes the stand. It can reshape how they question people already connected to the case. Even if the jury never hears a single word from the proffer, the entire structure of the state's strategy can be rebuilt around what Borland shared. And that's where the psychological damage hits Melly the hardest. Knowing that your former best friend, someone who came up with you, lived with you, dreamed with you, sat in a room with the same prosecutors, trying to lock you away for life, is a weight most people can even imagine. Reports say Melly immediately asked for new lawyers after hearing about the plea deal, showing just how deeply this shifted his confidence and mindset. This wasn't just a legal blow, this was emotional devastation. And there's the symbolic moment that shook everybody who saw it. When Borland was moved to South Florida Reception Center to start his sentence, he had his dreadlocks chopped off, leaving his head completely shaved, something that hits different when you know the history behind both their images. It was standard procedure in that facility, but symbolically, it represented something much bigger. The transformation wasn't just physical, it was spiritual, mental, and cultural. The man who once stood shoulder to shoulder with Melly as part of the YNW Brotherhood is now a completely different person, walking a path that no longer aligns with the loyalty and image they once shared. Too many watching this unfold. That haircut wasn't just a prison rule. It was a visual reminder that the unity they once had has been cut off as well. And the deeper cultural implications? They're impossible to ignore. This case exposes how young black men in the music industry are caught between loyalty to their roots and the brutal reality of the criminal justice system. It shows how the system can twist friendships, destroy brotherhoods, and force decisions that ripple through the entire culture. It's a painful reminder of how quickly dreams can fall apart when the law gets involved and survival becomes the only priority left. This entire case exposes a deeper, darker pattern, one where young artists from struggling neighborhoods end up trapped inside a system that feels engineered to break them down, lock them up, or turn them against each other. Whether it's cooperation, incarceration, or complete elimination from the industry, the path always seems stacked against them. And the YNW saga has become one of the clearest examples of how this cycle keeps repeating itself in hip-hop. Another major issue this case dragged back into the spotlight is the highly controversial practice of using rap lyrics as evidence in criminal trials. This has been a hot topic for years, but in Melly's situation, prosecutors are taking it to another level. Trying to introduce lyrics from more than 55 songs, including album covers and music videos, as proof of motive or gang ties. Even Melly's breakout hit Murder on My Mind, recorded long before the tragic night, is being dissected like it's a confession instead of artistic expression. The idea of weaponizing lyrics has been criticized everywhere, from legal scholars to civil rights voices to cultural experts, because it unfairly targets black artists and twists creativity into something criminal in the eyes of a jury. Hip-hop has always used raw storytelling, exaggeration, and emotion, but prosecutors try to flip that into evidence of violent intent. And now, with Borland's plea giving the state more confidence in their narrative, the chances of those lyrics being admitted in Melly's upcoming retrial just skyrocketed. The financial damage on Melly's side is massive. He's been locked in Broward County Jail for over 2,300 days, more than 6 years behind bars without bond. That's 6 years of missed tours, missed features, missed releases, missed bag after bag after bag. When you add the cost of lawyers, experts, investigators, and the income he lost by not being able to work, we're talking millions gone, evaporated before he ever had a chance to reach his full potential. Meanwhile, the families of the victims have been fighting for closure since 2018, carrying pain that never went away. Christopher Thomas Sr., father of YNW Juvie, publicly said he believed money disagreements played a major role in everything that happened. He claimed the group had been discussing a deal involving the YNW brand, where Sakazar was set to receive $200,000 and Juvie $100,000. But arguments reportedly broke out between Melly and Sakazar over how the money would be split and who would control it. This added a whole new layer of tension to the tragedy. The psychological strain on everyone involved is beyond heavy. Melly has spent over 6 years locked up during the years that Juvie had been the prime of his career in life. His mother has spoken out about being disappointed with his former legal team, calling out poor communication and what she felt was a lack of real dedication to saving her son. And with constant delays, retrial dates being pushed back, and new legal twists dropping every year, the whole situation feels like a never-ending storm. For Borland, taking the plea deal was a strategic gamble, a choice between risking life behind bars or accepting a shorter sentence at the cost of his reputation. He bet on survival, choosing a guaranteed release date over rolling the dice with a jury. But that decision came with a huge price tag. His name got stamped with the snitch label across the culture. His music career is frozen for years, and whatever brotherhood he once had with Melly is gone forever. This entire case forces the world to confront uncomfortable questions about how the justice system treats young Black men from neighborhoods already fighting against poverty, violence, and limited opportunities. It exposes how the law can twist art, friendships, and ambition into weapons used against the very people trying to rise above their circumstances. And it shows how fast dreams can collapse when the courtroom becomes the biggest opponent in someone's life. The long delays, the attempt to drag rap lyrics into the courtroom, the non-stop pressure placed on defendants to turn on each other, all of it paints a picture critics say is part of a system built to work against young men like Melly and Borland from day one. Every setback, every hearing, every legal twist makes it clearer why so many people believe the odds were never balanced in this case to begin with. With Melly's retrial now pushed to January 2027, it's obvious that Borland's plea deal didn't just shift the momentum, it completely reshaped the battlefield. The prosecution now walks into that courtroom with their theory validated, potential insider details in hand, and a cooperation narrative they can use to squeeze other witnesses who may have been silent until now. That's a powerful combination, and it makes Melly's situation far more dangerous than before. Melly's defense team, the mission ahead just became a tightrope walk over fire. They must rebuild their strategy from scratch while carrying the psychological weight of knowing someone who once rode with Melly side by side has now sat down with the same prosecutors fighting to bury him in a life sentence. That pressure hits the mind in ways legal textbooks can't explain. Meanwhile, the hip-hop community continues to battle with the cultural questions this case forces into the spotlight. Is Borland truly a snitch who crossed the street lines everyone swears by? Or is he another young black man boxed into a system that pushes co-defendants to turn against each other just to avoid dying behind steel doors? These debates get louder by the day, and no one can agree on where the line between loyalty and survival really sits. And what about Melly? Is he a talented artist caught in a storm of circumstances, betrayals, and legal chaos outside his control? Or is he someone who must be fully accountable for the tragedy that took 2 lives and left families shattered forever? The culture keeps searching for answers, but this case refuses to give any easy ones. One thing is undeniable. Borland's plea deal didn't just influence the case, it changed everything. The effects will spread across the hip-hop community for years, shaping conversations about loyalty, criminal justice, friendship, pressure, and the cost of fame. Whether true justice is served for the victims, for Melly, for Borland, and for the families who've carried this pain since 2018. That answer won't come until the final gavel drops on this long, brutal legal war. The story of YNW Melly and YNW Borland stands as a harsh warning, a reminder that fame doesn't erase struggle. Loyalty can collapse under pressure, and the system can turn friends into opponents overnight. When street bonds collide with courtroom tactics, the results are often tragic, unpredictable, and life-changing for everyone involved. And as the world waits for the next chapter, one truth stays solid in hip-hop. Loyalty and survival don't always move together, and sometimes the price attached to freedom is far heavier than anyone ever expected.